With that, if everyone is there will help themselves to a little bit of refreshment, I'd like to introduce our demonstrator this evening, Robert Mesrop. Mary has kindly written this to me. Robert Mesrop, an artist and painter for over 45 years, is a member of several art societies, including the American Watercolor Society and the New England Watercolor Society. He's a master artist member of the Cape Cod Art Association and the Sal Magundi Club in New York City. He's currently a painting and drawing instructor at the Cape Cod Art Center in Barnstable and conducts painting workshops in Maine and Massachusetts. Robert's primary medium is watercolor, although he also works in oil and drawing medium. He's fascinated by the changing light and shadows while trying to capture moments in time. The freshness and luminosity of watercolor make it the perfect medium. To quote him, "This requires discipline, planning, and forethought. I try to work through the painting mentally so that I can approach the paper with the spontaneity that is the hallmark of the medium." Robert received his Bachelor of Professional Arts degree from the Art Center College of Design in Los Angeles. For 22 years, he was an art director at J. Walter Thompson and at Kenyon and Eckhart ad agencies in New York. He exhibits his work at the Fresh Paint Gallery in Yarmouthport, Mass. And the Cultural Center of Cape Cod. And with no further ado, Robert
Well, thank you all for being here and for inviting me. I'll give just a couple of comments about what I do and how I do it. And the first thing I do want to say, though, is if you have any questions about anything, more or less, usually art, but you can, ask me what I like for breakfast if you like. But any kind of a question that you might pop in your head, or if I say something and you don't quite get it, say, wait a minute, would you give me that again because I didn't get it. I certainly, it will not interfere with me in the process of painting. I can usually stop about any time, with the exception of doing a big wash maybe or something like that. But so I welcome questions. Don't hesitate. Just to quickly, I'll tell you what I've got. I've got a half sheet of Arches 140-pound rough paper, which I've stretched and stapled to this board. What I mean is I kind of soak the paper both sides with a sponge. I let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I lay it down on the board and staple it while it's wet. And then it dries, and it just puts the paper under a little bit of tension, which minimizes, wrinkling and buckling when you're working. Now I'm going to be working vertically, so for two reasons. I think you can probably see it a little bit better. Number one. Number two, I could have worked on the table with the camera, projecting it, but I've done this, I've painted in those circumstances before, and usually what you see in the monitor is not nearly as, the values and the colors are usually subdued, primarily because you have the lights on. I have to have the lights on so I can see what I'm doing, and it minimizes what's on the screen. So I've opted to paint vertically, which is not my favorite way of painting, but we'll see what we can do about it. I have a palette here, which is an old John Pike palette. You may be familiar. How many people here are watercolors? Hey, okay, that's good. John Pike palette with a bunch of warm colors on the right side and cool colors on the left. There are more colors on this palette than I usually use. I usually end up painting with, in a painting maybe 5 or 6 colors, 7, 8 at the most. But one way or another, I get all the wells filled up on my palette here. I have a bunch of brushes, a lot of brushes. I am an advocate of having a whole lot of brushes, especially when you're working with watercolor. I think you've got to pick the brush that will do the job the most efficiently, with the least number of strokes. And if I were working on a full sheet of paper, I would use even bigger brushes, because you got to cover more area more quickly. So you want to make your brushes, use the brushes that fit the size of the painting you're doing and the area that you're painting. Let's see. I guess that's, other than that, I don't know what else I might add to you. I have a whole variety of brushes, flats, 1.5 flat. That's it. Yeah, 1.5. There's a 1 inch, and I have a 3/4 and a couple of small ones, and I have some round, pointy brushes like that, which is a very cheap brush, a very good one, by the way. And I have a couple of round brushes that do not come to a point, and I use those for some things, and I use that for other things. I have a huge mop. Squirrel hair mop, and I have another one just like it, a little bit smaller, and I have a series of other brushes very similar that are even smaller. I use these quite a bit. I guess I have nothing else to say. I will show you what I'm aiming for here tonight, and we'll see how well it goes. Oh, and I like to tell you, just so you wonder, I'm having cataract surgery tomorrow morning. Okay, so I had to put a drop of some kind of a chemical in my eye to dilate my left eye. That's the one I'm going to have the surgery on. So when I look at you with my left eye, you're all kind of blurry because my iris is dilated, and when I look at you with my right eye, everything is nice and clear, and I can see everybody's face. Whether that's going to be a help or not, I don't know. That's right. You know how sometimes they tell you what you should do when you have to squint, so you get rid of the details and you see the big picture. Believe me, when I look with my left eye, all I'm seeing is the big picture out there. No detail at all. Okay. Here's a photograph that I took in Vermont. This is at Plymouth Notch. If anybody has been to Plymouth Notch in Vermont, it's Calvin Coolidge's birthplace. A little burg up in the hills in Vermont. And I took that photograph in the winter, and I'm going to paint it, but I'm going to paint it with that color scheme. So I'm going to be translating this into something like this. One reason I decided to do this is maybe to make a point that just because this is your inspiration, you don't have to be a slave to this. This is your jumping off point, so to speak. And you can say, gee, I like that, but maybe I want to change the color scheme, or change the time of day, or the season of the year. You can do this in the fall, too. Just take that and do a painting of that as if it were a fall scene. And when I teach in my class, I don't let the students do is copy the photograph. That's not allowed. We can, there's no sense in copying the photograph. I mean, if you love the photograph that much, blow it up and frame it. I mean, you got it. You've already got it. This is your inspiration. So you want to make a painting out of it. Okay. I did a drawing. I've got things. I did a drawing ahead of time just to save time. And I'm going to start to do some painting here. And I'm going to take a nice big brush. Because I'm going to cover some territory here, so I'm going to take this big brown brush, and I'm going to put create a wash here on my palette, and I'll hold this palette up occasionally so you can see what it looks like. And I'm going to start with some alizarin crimson, permanent alizarin, I should say, and I'm going to put some cad orange in that. And I'm going to keep that brush there, and I'm going to get another brush, a little smaller brush, and I'm going to put a dollop of ultramarine blue here on my palette. So I have that, so I can grab that if I want to modify the tones in the sky that I'm going to start with first. I'll have something to work with, and I'll leave that brush right there. Ordinarily, I might dampen the paper first, but I think because I'm working vertically, maybe I won't do that. I'm going to start painting with a dry paper and try and keep a bead running down the paper. And I'm going to be painting, obviously. It's a snow scene, so I want to leave all those the roofs clear, paper, okay? So I'm going to see what I start off with here. Maybe I'm going to make believe, but well, it is. The light source is coming from the right side here, so I'm going to have the sky warmer on the right and a little bit cooler on the left. So I'm going to put a little bit of cad yellow in there to warm it up just a little bit. And I'm going to take my brush here, which is loaded with paint, and I'm just going to start right across here, go right across, like that. And do another one, like that. And now I'm going to modify that. I'm going to put put a little bit of more yellow over here, make it a little bit hotter over here. And I'm going to make it a little bit cooler. So I'm going to put a little more alizarin crimson over here. And see, I've got that bead going there. I'm going to try and keep that bead going right down to the tops of the roof and not have it leak into the roof. We'll see. Now it's a little too warm. I'm going to take that brush that's got that ultramarine blue, and I'm going to add a little ultramarine blue over here to the sky. And I'm going to let that just drip right down wherever it wants to, and that's going to make a nicer sky than I could by trying to control it and make clouds and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to take this, keep that bead going, and I'm going to go right up to that roof. And as long as I don't go into that roof, I think that bead will stop right there. And I can come down there, I can keep that going. I'm going to switch brushes, and I guess I can just keep on going with this brush. Yeah, add a little more fire there. And I'm going to just wiggling. You'll excuse me while I get my brush line going right across there and right down there. And right in there. Right up there, around that roof, and across there, and down there. I'm going to straighten out that roof line there. Well, so far so good. Cover that up. I don't even mind that little white spot in there. That's okay. I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to hit that little drip there. I know that's going to run right down where I don't want it to run. So I'm going to suck that up and I'm going to clean that up like that. And I don't know whether I want that sky. I want to put a little bit more into that sky. So I'm going to, while it's still damp, I think I'm going to put a suggestion of maybe a mountain back in there. I don't know. Now I may end up with a bloom, which may be the best thing that could happen to me. Because if I'm lucky, that bloom may create some trees for me on the top of that mountain. See how it's kind of doing that for me? So I'm just going to live with that. And I'm going to bring this wash all the way down. I want to bring this wash right down into the house here. I'm going to switch brushes. And I'm going to get a little more, I'm going to put a little burnt sienna in here to brown this up a little bit with the blue over here. And I'm going to continue this wash right down into the side of the house here. I'm going to leave there's some snow up there. Okay. And let me get some blue in here. Put that into some damp, some red in there. Oh yeah, that big drip there, that's perfectly okay. No problem. I'm going to go back into that later anyway, and if there's a drip there, I can take a paper towel and make it go away. There. That'll be fine. I didn't want a hard edge over there, so I just brought that sky right down into the side of the house. Let me step back. Yeah, the sky's done. Okay, I'm just going to leave it just like that. So I'm going to go and work over here. It's dark over here, darker over here, and certainly the foreground is going to be dark. And in order to get those buildings, I want those roofs to really pop. So I think maybe I don't mind the color of those, that's in that original photograph. There's kind of a yellow paint siding on those buildings, and that would go pretty, that might not go too bad with the color scheme, at least in that direction. So I'm going to get some raw sienna and mix some raw sienna with the warms that I had on the palette here. By the way, just so you know, there's what my palette looks like so far. Okay? Trying not to make mud, trying to keep the colors clean. And let's see, what's white on there? The only thing that's white on the front of the house is that little roof. Is it that? I can let that go into there, that'll be okay.
Robert, is that home sewed underneath the paper?
Yes, it is. That's home soap. A building material that you can buy. It comes in big sheets, 4x8 sheet, and sometimes they'll cut it down for you, and sometimes they won't. Yes, it comes in a 4x8 sheet. So I'm going to paint around that little white roof there that's on the entrance. Just like that, like that. Around there. I'm going to get that. Fine. And let's see, okay, we're down to. So that's going to be the. There's that building. I'm going to make the other building a little different, a little cooler. I'm going to get some of my ultramarine blue in here. Maybe make it a little more of a gray, a little darker and a little grayer back in here. Yeah, I like that. Put that roof on there. I'm going to add some other colors to that. Like, I'm going to drop some blue in there, maybe a little different blue. A greener blue. Yeah, I like that. Go back to my brown. Goes right up to that. Snow down there. Okay. Come across there. Down there. And I'm going to go back to my yellower, warmer house over here. Yeah. I'm going to switch brushes here for a minute. Get a slightly smaller brush. And that right over to there. So I'm blocking in the buildings, local color. And you notice I'm working just with half tones. I'm in the mid-tones here. I don't have any darks going yet. I'm just laying in most of my mid-tones. The darks will come later on. That'll be the, hopefully that will kind of bring the painting together. I'm thinking already that I probably will, I may darken this area right in up above the houses here. I can always do that later on. I'll decide that after the painting progresses a little bit more. I'm going to go for this right-hand side over here. And, okay. dab of burnt sienna, put that in there. I'm not mixing it in there, I'm just gonna get some nice burnt sienna in there, foliage and trees and whatever. Then I'm gonna dry my brush a little bit and create some trees up in here. And maybe a couple sticking up back behind there too. I don't like that shape. I'm going to change that shape. I'm going to stick some more up there. Okay, that's better. And if some of those are in the, if there are some tree trunks there that are in the sun, that the sun may be hitting back in there, I'm going to squeeze those out of there right now with the back of a credit card, a couple of trunks, you know, just for a little texture back there.
What did you use for that?
A maxed out credit card.
Let me see the special tool. Oh, wonderful.
A maxed out credit card. I cut them up into different sizes so I can make different size marks on them. With using the different, you know, that kind of thing. And you want to do that, you know, as soon as you lay that in, you want to, so you can go back to either white paper, or if you put a wash down there first, and then you come over with a darker wash, when you squeeze it out, providing the first one is dry, you'll squeeze it back out to the color that was underneath there. So it doesn't always necessarily have to go back to white paper. Okay, I'm going to work some more on the houses. The foreground's going to go in quickly, and I'll deal with that a little bit later. I'm going to work on the houses right now, and I want to put this side of this house here in greater shadow, in more shadow. So I'm going to mix up. I'm going to get some of my ultramarine blue here, and the red that I had on my palette. And bring some of those tones that are in the sky into the shadow side of this building. I'm wiggling like crazy on here. I can't make it straight line. And I'm going to throw a little bit of that warmth back in there, just so you know it's that. Still that same local color. And I'm going to get darker right in here to emphasize the light part of the house. And then I'm going to lose that. I'm not even going to define that far side. I'm just going to take that tone and run it right up behind there. Maybe that's a little too purple, although I don't know, maybe not. Bring some of that warmth in there, back out by lifting a little of that tone. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I think I definitely want to darken this up in here. So I'm going to take another tone, maybe some more of that kind of a violet. First thing I'm going to do, though, I have a another pot of clean water up there. So I don't end up with a hard line when I put that, when I put this other tone back in here. I'm going to dampen. This is now all thoroughly dry, and so I'm going to dampen that area up in here. So I won't end up with a hard line. Having done that, I ought to be able to go back in here now and put in another tone. Yeah, you can see I can get some more, a little more texture and tone in there. I can even make that little spot a little bit darker. And I might get a drip right across that roof there. Unless I grab that little guy right there. I got him. Darken that a little bit right in there. Yeah, I like that better. You see, I got another little bit of a bloom in there. See what that's happening up in there a little bit? That's pretty good. I like that. Got that little. Yeah, I like that just being a little bit darker. It makes the white of the roofs, those roofs pop out a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to take a flat brush like this one. I'm going to work on this building back in here a little bit, and I want to put a little bit of a texture in there, a little bit of a vertical texture in there, and I can do that pretty well with a flat brush. And I'm going to mix up a kind of a neutral tone using some indigo blue, and whatever's on my palette. Here's some warm tones on my palette. I'm going to dry that brush a little bit, and then maybe if I go up like that, I can get a feeling of a little bit of a feeling of some vertical textures in that building. Just like that. I might even put one up a little bit higher.
Would you mind stepping aside?
I will be glad to. I'm glad you asked me. Sure. You betcha.
Great.
Excellent, thank you.
That's okay. Yeah, sure. Just getting a little bit of texture up in there. And I'm going to do the same thing on this building here, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to take, again, a piece of credit card, and I'm going to dip it in my paint here. And because I see there's, and this is, there are some vertical boards in this building, and I like that texture in there. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to, that's probably too big. I'm going to get a shorter, smaller piece, like this one. That might do it. That might do it. And I can just go, I'll step aside, you'll be able to see it. I'm just putting in some vertical lines in there, you can see, to suggest some boards. Doesn't have to be exact, it's an old barn. I could change the size because I want to put them up above that door there, so I can do that. And the color isn't that important. Little texture to that board. And when that dries, I'll be able to go over that if I want to darken that building, which I think I'm going to want to. When that's totally dry, I can put a wash right over that, and it'll still show. They won't be quite so prominent, but it'll still show. There are some, let's see, there's a nice dark, there's a nice shadow. Now I gotta get some smaller brushes because I'm working with in smaller areas. And I'm gonna pick up where's my little one? There it is. And I'm gonna make that violet. So I'm gonna put a violet shadow on this roof over here. And carry it down into and get real dark. My Payne's gray is back here, which I can use. And I can darken this back in here. Switch brushes again. And move this camera. And we'll soften that up into there. That's good. And dark shadow in there. I'll step out of the way in a second. You can see what I'm doing. I'm putting in a shadow there of this roof shining on that roof over there. The peak of this roof is shining there. And I'm going to play around with this a little bit. There are some horizontal lines on this building here. There's a door there. And door there, and another one over there as well. And there's a window up above, a couple of windows in there, which I'm going to put in, and I can use violet again, I think. And I don't want to be too important, but I will put a window a little more than that, right there. And another one a little darker right here. And there's another little one over there, I think. And that'll do it. Now, I'm going to put some drop shadows on the roofs. And let's see, I think I should go with maybe a burnt sienna, because the buildings are warm in tone. So there's going to be a drop shadow on the overhang on this roof. I'm thinking like that. And there'll probably be the same thing over there. Maybe it will be smaller. Sort of like that. There's going to be another drop shadow on this roof here. certainly. A nice drop shadow. I'm going to go a little bit more violet maybe on that one. That's this one right here. I'm going to go from there to there and go right up into that. There we go. Get a nice drop shadow on that roof. Strong light. Strong afternoon light there. Now I'm going to go back and remember I said I want to put a wash over that building because I don't think that building is dark enough. So I'm going to make another wash, maybe a burnt sienna. With a little bit of phthalo blue into it. And I can go right across that again, darken that. And I like that better. Then I went right across those little vertical lines that I put in there. They're all dry, but then they're going to lift. Particularly if I do it quickly, I'm not going to scrub in there because otherwise I would lift them. But if I just go over that quickly, they won't lift. Now I got to deal with this little the facade of this building here, and I'm going to put some windows in here, and I'm going to pick a brush which is about the size of the windows that I think I'm going to see in there, and let's see. I'm going to make them kind of warm because they're in direct light. There's warm light going into them, so I would think those windows would probably be warm in tone. So there's about 4 or 5 windows on the top floor there. Let's see. Here's 1, 2, 3, and a smaller brush. Where's my little one here? Here it is, right here. This one, I'm going to use this one to put in that. And these windows are not evenly spaced. I found out on this building, which is a little bit unusual, but that's just the way it is. And there is some more down here in the lower, down below, and that looks a little bit too dark to me. I don't like them; they look too dark. So I'm just going to hit them with a paper towel and lighten them. I like that better. I like that better. They wouldn't be that dark. There'd be too much reflected light in there. So I'm going to put that window in there. And you can see how a nice big flat brush very quickly. See, there's economy. Take a brush like that, the right size, bing, and you got a window painted. There's another 2 of them, 2 smaller ones, or 2, not necessarily smaller, but they're further away, so they're skinnier. I screwed that up, but that's okay. And then there's a doorway in here, and some vertical stuff in there. Goes all the way down, right down to the snow. A suggestion of architecture in there. I'll do a little bit more with that. And there's going to be, I'm sure there'd be a drop shadow underneath there. You bet. Like that, and this would probably be a little bit darker. You go over to there. Yeah, that's okay. Now there's also some little bit of architecture over on this other side. And knock it up a little bit. There were some doors on this building, and there's one right in there, had an overhang, and there's another one over here. And it would probably have a little bit of a drop shadow there, and maybe who knows what all there. Just some interesting shapes. And I'm going to lighten that. Hit it with a paper towel and lighten my brush. I just want to make some shapes in there. It could be anything. Who knows what's there? There are the doors. Now I got a nice drop shadow that's going across that that other building that I just did, and it's going to be underneath here. So I want to get my hand going across there. I want to aim for that and go right across like that. There we go. There's the drop shadow on that eve. Let me step back and see how that's coming. Okay, that's coming all right. And I know there's a window. There's a window over on this side of the house over here. So I'm going to put that window in. And it's right about in here. It would be about the same height as that one, but you'd see more of it. So it's going to be a little bit kind of like that, and maybe there'd be enough part of another one over there. Just a suggestion. There's probably one on the first floor too. Just a suggestion there. Okay, I'm going to work. No, I can do that later. I'm going to take my credit card again, and I'm going to squeeze a couple of shapes out of this window here. Just a reflection there, and a reflection of something there. Maybe a mulligan. Just to break up that shape a little bit. Okay.
I'm getting very nervous about the chimney.
You're getting nervous about the chimney. Why are you
This is
nervous
New
about
England, it's winter.
Yeah, and there should be a chimney there, right? I'll put a chimney in just for you. How about that? I'll put a chimney in. Sure. Now I'm gonna go for the foreground here. All right? And I'm going to go with my big brush here, start with this brush right here. And mix up a big, here's what my palette looks like now. Okay, it's got colors all over it. Hopefully, when you're working, hopefully you don't end up with just a big puddle of gray. Try to keep your colors separate so you can get clean colors up there, and everything doesn't all become gray. So now I'm going to go for my shadow in my ground. That. Another brush. to start with a warmer. I'm going to start with a warmer tone in the background. Let's see. Let me make sure that's dark enough. I'll come in here with this. All right, that's not too bad. And maybe
What color are you using?
say it again.
What baby?
What was the color question?
What color are you?
That's alizarin crimson with a little bit of, wait, I gotta get my mic back into place here. Alizarin crimson with a little bit of ultramarine blue in there. But now I'm going to go in for some real depth here. There's an embankment here. I'm going to run this down into here. I'm going to have a splash of light going across, the sun coming across there. And I'm going to save that brush for something else, but I'm going to use this brush, and I'm going to go for some nice dark. There's an embankment here, so this is getting less sun right in here. It's turning over that. And it's rough and it's been plowed and the whole thing. And I will take some of this straight ultramarine blue. I want to get a little more of a feeling of some texture in here. Yeah, that's okay. Now I'm going to, that's the one, no, it's this one, yeah. Okay, let's go for some more. Let's see, that goes right across there. And go up that embankment and right to the house. And then there's some sun coming across here. Go with my big brush again. Change color to get a little more blue in here. Across, go up, over, back into there, and another one right in there, like that. And this would be a little bit lighter coming across here because the sun will be hitting it. I'm going to lighten that up a little bit. This is the other side of the road here. But there's going to be a dark. I'm trying to create a pattern of light. This would probably not end there. This would go up over that embankment like that to show the embankment there. I'm painting now with my paper towel. You can see I'm creating the contour. You can let the shadows describe the terrain. And I'm going to go for some darker values in here. Let those come over. I'm going to soften that edge or create some, you know, that's what the cloud is. Fill this all up with some I'm going to put some red in here because there's a lot of red in that sky. And that sky would be reflected in here somewhere. So I'm going to suggest some of that in the snow here, some of that pink. Cover that up. Now there's a street here, and the street is going to be warmer. So I'm going to take some burnt sienna and mix that with the blue, and I'm going to create my street, which is in here, and it's going to come down through here. I'm going to lighten that up. Well, actually, that would be, it's not so bad. I'm going to come in here with the street, give a little bit of direction. Keep my perspective going back into the painting there, creating that road going back. They just tell me to get out of the way. Get out of the way. I can't see. That's all right. Sure. And I'm going to get some real dark. I'm going to put some real dark back in here. Set off that light back there. Nah, that's too much. I don't want that. I want to keep that a little more subtle there in the foreground. That too. I'm going to lift that a little bit with a paper towel. That's better. Step back and see what I've got going here. Okay. I think I can pick up some, maybe Payne's gray. I can darken some of this right in here. Soften that edge right there. Yeah. And go to some green blue in here. I'm breaking this up a little bit because it is plowed. Maybe it's too much. Maybe there's too much texture. I don't want to have that much excitement down in here, so I'm going to lift a little of that out and not make it so important. Okay. I'm going to step back and take a break and think a minute about where I'm going to go next with it. I still feel that this background up here is not dark enough. I think I want to make it darker. This up here is fine. Way in the distance, that's okay. I don't mind having a little bit of a light streak, but right down here, I think I want to darken that. So, I'm going to do just that. And I'm going to have another brush in my hand with some clear water so I can soften an edge. That's just clear water, a brush with clear water. And I think what I need to do is get before I do anything else on these, I want to do that. And I'm going to get a well, maybe a tone like that. And I'm going to hit that across there. Come down there into that. That will get lost in there. That's not a problem. And I'll hit this, and I'll make that a little bit darker right in there. Darker yet. A little bluer maybe. Yeah, now before that dries, I'm going to hit that with a wet brush and soften that. Change the shape a little bit so it isn't just a line there. And go over to here and carry that across there, like that, down. And then I'm going to soften that edge up there with that wet brush. And maybe get even darker over here. This is going to become a tree, so I can have some fun back in here. And I'll soften that line right there, wrong brush. Use this brush, get the water, get the color out of it. Soften that edge right there. Carry that over that way. Put that one right down. Look at that, isn't that something? Well, you can just chop that right up. You'll never know it. Never know it was there. There. Darken that a little bit, right in there. Yeah, I like that better. I like that better. It sets off those roofs a little bit more. What I don't like about it though is the shapes. There's two shapes here that I don't like about it. I'm a stickler about shapes. You see these two diamonds here? They're too similar. It looks planned, and I don't like that. So I'm going to modify this one and make a little bit more out of it. And I'm going to put there's a ridge back there. Soften it, lose it. It takes away the onus of that repetition of that shape there. I think that works a little bit better. Now, okay, so now I'm going to play around with some, there's some stuff over here that needs to be worked on. It needs to be darker. Over here, I can set this off. I'm going to use a smaller brush because I'm going to be making some shapes, different shapes out of this. And paint around some of those little white stripes that I put in there. And these are trees, by the way, back in here. So I'm going to make some tree shapes. And I'm going to darken that right down in here. I want to put some real nice dark accent right in there. Now I'm going to get out my super duper little tree brush here, this little thing, and I'm going to make some trees in here. A little bit there, and I'm not happy with this right in here is a little bit too vague. I think it needs a little more oomph to it. There's going to be a drop shadow there, certainly, and there's going to be some vertical stuff going in there. There's a door in there. Overhang. Side shadow on the window. Maybe a drop shadow underneath a couple of the yeah, that sets that off. That sets that off a little bit better. Now I got the only thing left is I got a nice big tree. It's going to go in here. Say it again.
Don't forget the chimney.
And the chimney. Oh yeah. Let's see. You know, interestingly enough, there are no chimneys on those houses. How about that? You don't believe me? You take a look. There are no chimneys on those houses. But I'll put one up. I'll put one in. Just for you, this house is going to have a chimney.
And smoke.
Boy, you put some smoke in there too, for that matter. All right, I'm going to put a chimney in there. I'm going to get my chimney brush right here, and I guess it's got to be a brick, right? So it's going to be kind of a reddish brown. Get some burnt sienna and a little cad red there. But it's in that bright sunlight, so it's going to be quite orangey, I think. And maybe it's sitting up here. Let's see, in the middle of the house. And it would be right there, and there. Let's say like that. And the side of it would be warm but a lot darker. That would be right in there like that. Over the back side. Fold. Fold. I'll make it deeper. Okay, there's a chimney. We got a center a chimney down the middle of the house. There you go. See? That's fine. Now the tree is going to go in there. So now I'm going to give it a nice big round. Let's see. I'll start with this one here. There's a big round one, and a little smaller round one, and an even smaller round one. Okay? And I'm going to put it. This tree is going to go in over here. So I'm going to do. Mix up a nice dark tone here with some Payne's gray and some burnt sienna to warm it up a little bit. And let's see, it's sitting off in the snow over here. I'm making this tree up. I mean, there's a tree in here, but, and I kind of use it as a guide, but I may not like the shape of that tree, so I'll make up a tree of my own, but I'm going to start here and just flatten out that brush and just start going up with it. And I'm lifting the brush as I go to make the trunk thinner, and I'll go right off the top of the paper. There's my first brush for the. I'm gonna flatten out the bottom here a little bit, just so it looks like it's coming out of the snow. There we go. And I'm gonna take that same brush and I'm gonna put another secondary trunk that's going to come up this way and then head off that way with another one going off like that. So there's some of the main branches, but I want a big branch going down. So I'm going to put, from here, I'm going to put a branch going across here, across there and out that way. And now I'm going to switch brushes and go to a slightly smaller brush and maybe a little warmer. And there's going to be a branch that's going to curl. I want to break into this roof. There's going to be a branch that's going to come down and curl into the roof there. And while well, it's still a little too wet. That's okay. Get that there, and some of that, and there's going to be one going up there, another one's going to come out of there, another one go across that way, and this is going to be one comes down there. We need a smaller one, I think, from a composition point of view. Maybe a smaller one coming out of there. Put some water on my brush. Yeah. I can cut right through there. Now I'm gonna take one of my magic cards here, and we're gonna squeeze some lights out of the trunk here to get a little texture in the trunk. You know, the sun is hitting the trunk there. Up there, maybe two. And I need a secondary tree in here, smaller. These crossing be back behind that one. Maybe even another one, closer together. Now I'm going to just start having fun here and go with my smaller brush and create more. I usually like to go from the bottom up when I'm painting trees because it allows me to taper the branches as I go up. Small branch right there, they got broken off. That one got broken. Branch there. Now I can just have some fun here and cross branches all over the place. Let them get lighter and lighter and lighter. And now I'm going to go back to my, here's my crazy little brush. There it is. And mix up whatever's on my palette here, it doesn't really matter. And now I can just go have an absolute ball here with this thing. And it doesn't matter what you do, which direction you go in. I'm going to extend some branches here, out, down there. That's going to taper out a little bit more. There's going to be some branches coming up there. Go for it. Just.
Is that one of those little sword strikers, Robert?
Pardon?
What do you call that brush?
This is a liner.
It's just a liner?
Called a liner brush, and you get it loaded with water, and it comes to a real point, and you can make a line forever with the thing. Once you get it loaded up with water and paint, it'll go on forever.
What brand of that do you have?
I don't know what brand. Does it even say? Yes, it does. It says Pearl, the old Pearl Paint Company. Remember the Pearl Paint Company? They're out of business. They're not around anymore.
They used to be used by sign
Yes.
brushes.
Yep. You know, these brushes were initially used in the automotive industry years ago. Some of you may be old enough to remember it, or you might even be as old as I am, although I doubt it. Remember when you used to buy an automobile back in the 30s or 40s, and they had there'd be this cream stripe going down the side of the car? You know, they were painted by hand. They were painted by hand by guys. That's what all they did was they had a brush like this, and they would stand like this. And that the car went by on the assembly line, they just held the brush there. They would go like that, and they would get that perfect line right all the way down the car. It was done by hand.
Why didn't it get thick and thin?
Because they kept it at the right distance. They kept it at the right distance from the car, so that, you know, that line will be that thick, or if I press it harder, it will make a well, it won't on my hand, but it'll make a thicker line. And they knew exactly how much of a line they wanted to, how wide a line they wanted to make on the car. So I'm going to have some fun here with a sprout coming out of there. And go up with that. Keep on going. And I'm going to also, I'm going to put a little bit of this stuff down here in the foreground. Get a little more water on my brush. Things sticking up out of the snow. Here in the foreground, you'll see some things. Maybe over here too. I'm going to tighten a couple of other things here, darken a couple of other things, I should say, like the shadow over here. I'm going to darken that a little bit. Any other, oh yeah, there are some windows on that house too, which I kind of like. But I'll take this little brush because they're really small windows. And there's one little one right in there. Little square window. And there's one over there. And brush again, here it is. There. More of that up in here. You can hardly go wrong when you get to this point because the branches can go in any which way direction. Step back and see what you got. Well, you know, we're getting pretty near done there, I think. Anything else you want me to add? Yeah.
Oh, nothing to add.
Oh, nothing to add, okay.
Where exactly is the sun?
The sun is off to the right here. The clue you have, you see this shadow on there on that roof? That tells you that the sun's got to be over here somewhere. It's low, but it's over here because it's casting a shadow of this gable on the side of that roof. So that's really the only clue. The sun could, because of the snow, the sun could conceivably be coming this way. Doesn't really tell you, except that if the sun were coming this way, this in here would be in shadow. It's in shadow over here, darker here, because the sun is going in. The sun is coming here, lighting, illuminating the top of the snow, getting reflections from the sky, and then as it curves down, it's getting a little bit darker in there. I could put a little more emphasis on the curvature of this embankment with a flat brush, perhaps like this, and that might be well worth doing. I'm going to get some ultramarine in here. I'll show you what I mean. I could put, if I were to suggest a little more darkness in here, you can see how I'm suggesting that this curvature of the snow going down and then across. That's a good example, by the way, of how you can use shadows to describe the terrain of that the shadows are flowing across. It could be grass. It could be almost any other you could ruts in a road, a curb. The shadow is going to do that, and it's going to drop down and then go across, and then up the other side or something like that. So you use your shadows to describe the terrain. I think I mean. Worse and worse, let me tell you.
Thank you very, very much, Robert.
You're welcome. Thank you. Paul, I enjoyed it. Hey, do you have any other questions? Anything? Anything about painting? Yes.
Tell me why you like to work flat versus...
Oh, it's probably a little easier to work. I know flat. I have it elevated a little bit. You know, maybe a couple of inches, 3 or 4 inches, or flat. Working vertically is a little bit trickier because you got this, you know, you can end up with a rivulet coming down your painting. It's a little harder to control. Yes.
Do you keep certain design principles in your mind as you're painting, or is it not the primary focus? Or
Design principles are major.
Well, which design principles do you find are major for you?
Design principles that are major. To me, there's I have one major, when you're going to do a painting, I don't care what medium, it's irrelevant. You want to have a value composition. If you do a thumbnail, you know what I mean when I say a thumbnail, I'll show you what I mean. Where's my bag? I doodle with a marker, a couple of markers, and I do these things. Okay? I have tons of them. Just fool around with composition, value compositions.
You think in terms of 3 values?
3 values, white, a mid-tone, and black. That's all you need. Maybe if you want to you can have 2 mid-tones, white, 2 mid-tones, and black. Okay? And if you come up with a good little thumbnail like you know, I'm not saying these are all good, but if you come up with one, you say, hey, I like that. That's got possibilities. Okay? Then you can take, if you say, I like that, and the composition is good, and the values are good, and I guarantee you, if you paint the painting, and you stick with the values that you've established, and it's gotta run the gamut as far as I'm concerned, from white to almost black. Dark, anyway, if not black, dark, you know. And if you follow your thumbnail, you got a good thumbnail, you do a painting that follows that thumbnail, I guarantee you'll end up with a good painting. And you know, it doesn't really matter. I'm not saying that color isn't important, it certainly is. But you could do the same painting in any number of color schemes. If you follow that value composition, it's going to work for you. It'll work for you. I could do this painting, same painting in the fall. There'd be oranges back in here, and the hillside would be all, you know, and there'd be a maple tree. This would be maybe a maple tree in color, in full color, you know, orange with leaves and the whole thing. And there'd be leaves on the ground here, so it'd be kind of green and golds and oranges, whatever. If I followed the value sketch, it would work. It could be springtime with beautiful chartreuse yellow green. The tree is just starting to green up. But if you make sure you get the value composition. Now you're saying, well, how would I get this in springtime? Obviously, the suggestion over here is that there's something over here that's casting all of these shadows across this road. And they're gonna be there whether it's spring, summer, winter, or fall. So if it's springtime, there's still gonna be shadows going across that road. One way, yes, hey,
Just along that note, I noticed that you started with mid-tone value.
Yes.
Do you always do that? And if so, why?
I usually, while working with transparent watercolor, I usually start with the lightest areas. I decide what's going to be white, what's going to be, what's going to be the high tones and the mid tones, and then I like to bring the whole painting together with my darks. But in the minute, when you're halfway through the painting, you look at it and gosh, that's terrible, because you don't have any of the real gutsy darks in there. When you get the darks in, you start putting the darks in, all of a sudden it kind of ties together. And what I like to try to break the composition, which is a good thing about these little thumbnails, because you end up with just 2 or 3 or 4 basic big shapes: a white shape, a mid-tone shape or 2, and a dark shape. And try to tie them all together. You can see here that though I didn't completely do it, but this is a big dark shape here. In essence, this tree kind of ties in this dark shape with this shape in here. And by not defining this edge, what I did was I got the background, this whole, the colors and the values in the background, I brought them right around into the front into the mid-tone, or into the mid-ground of the painting, so that they weren't, separated. They weren't too separated. I like to get the colors, the background colors into the mid-tone, into the mid-ground, or even the foreground. It integrates the painting. It doesn't become too separated. The light areas in the painting, the white area, you've got this here. It doesn't quite connect. Actually, my idea was to keep a white edge on there, so that the white would go from here to there, through there, and all into there, to there. So all of the white area, at least of the roofs, was all interconnected. And they almost are. Not entirely, but they almost are. That and shapes, interesting shapes. Don't get repetitious. It's very tempting, and I do it too. You get a brush in your hand, you start going, and that should be a big red light should go off in your head. Oh, no, that's wrong. I got to do something to make those shapes more interesting. You got to break it up. If you got a big smooth shape, here, I try to break it up with some smaller shapes. If I've got a big smooth shape in here, I got to break it up with some smaller shapes. You don't want to have all the you want to make a nice diverse selection of shapes. Simple shape here, agitated shape next to it, and then linear shape here, and then a big simple shape there next to it, near it, so that it doesn't become repetitious. The shapes don't become repetitious. Anything else? No? Yes.
So, if that was springtime,
Yes.
and that was grass,
Yes.
how would you do the shadows on the grass?
How would I do the shadows on the grass? I would make the shadows on the grass, where the sun was hitting the grass, it would be kind of I keep it a chartreuse, almost a yellow chartreusey color. And when I got to the grass, I would make it a cooler green, cooler blue-green. I'd probably throw some warms into it, some browns into it as well. But it's just, you gotta stick with local color. The local color is important. Grass is green, but there are many kinds of greens. You'll notice I don't know whether you did notice, but I can tell you on my palette, there's not a green tube of green paint on that palette. Anywhere, I mix all my greens. And I can mix any green that you can think of, like, with what I've got on my palette. Any green. I never have any two greens on my palette. I like to mix all my own greens. For the simple reason that it makes me get a greater, more varied greens in my painting when I'm painting greens than if I have sap green, what's the other one, everybody? Then again, hunter green, right? There you go. And you're painting a painting that's got a lot of grass in it, and you go into the sap green, and you go into this green, and you go into that green, and you end up with all these two-colored greens on there, and it doesn't. You know, if you have to mix the greens, you get a much nicer variety of colors, greens, than you would if you've got greens on your palette. That's why I have none on my palette, because I mix them all. Yes, yes, yes.
You mentioned initially that you might have done a wash underneath the whole thing.
Yes.
If it weren't vertical. What color would the wash have been?
The same color. It would have been pretty much the same color. It wouldn't have changed the color. I might have changed the application, but it wouldn't have changed the color. That would have been pretty much what I've got there. Yeah. Well, okay, yeah, well, yeah.
One last point about push-pull.
Yes.
Toward the end of the paging, where you begin to move things up closer to the back.
Right.
And what is your...
Well, if I understand your question, it's when I get to the darks, when I start putting in the darks,
If something jumps out at you,
yes, but if you've done a value sketch, you've settled that. You've already established where your darks are going to go in your composition.
but then there's the intensity of the green. The green will come forward.
That's right, and indeed it will. But that's atmospheric, like atmospheric perspective will determine how warm or how cool the greens are. You know what atmospheric perspective is? Shake your head, yes. You do? When I say yes, you do? Yes, no? No. Atmospheric perspective is why the mountain that you're looking at 10 miles away is purple. Why is it purple? Because between your eyes and that mountain, you've got a zillion, quadrillion droplets of water, atmosphere in the air, water droplets. And the sky, the water droplets are reflecting the blue or the cool light of the sky. And all of that cool light gets in between you and that mountain in the distance. And as you're driving your car and you're getting closer and closer, the mountain goes from purple and then it goes to a darker blue and a green blue, and all of a sudden you get up the mountain, it's full of green pine trees. Because you don't have all that water vapor between you and those trees anymore. That's atmospheric perspective. Things tend to be cooler and lighter. The further away from you they are, they tend to be warmer and darker, closer to you. Not always, there are always exceptions to the rule, but that's the basis of atmospheric perspective.
I think it's time to let you take your drive back down the stage.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.